Welcome to Fantasy R&R. I'm your host, Ryan, and this is your Sunday morning injury report.
This is Fantasy with Rob and Ryan, Fantasy R&R.
The league's been absolutely decimated by injuries and the disruption of COVID this season, especially for running backs. So let's take a last-minute look at who is and who's not active for your fantasy matchups in Week 10.
Arizona Cardinals.
All right, we're going to start with the Arizona Cardinals. Just go down the list alphabetically, talk about some of the big players. Speaking of running backs, Kenyon Drake, probably a guy a lot of you have rostered, had rostered at the beginning of the season, hoping big things from. Some people have kind of insinuated that he's been a disappointment. I know he started off kind of slow, but he still was having steady production, had a couple of 60, 70, 80-yard games rushing, didn't have a whole ton of touchdowns, but after that against the Jets in Dallas, did go on a bit of a tear. Week 6 was his biggest week with about 30 points. After that, in the Seattle game, doesn't do a whole lot, gets injured on a bye week. This past week 9, still injured. And with his ankle injury, he is a legitimate game time decision. So what you're going to have to do is check back at about 12 p.m. Eastern time. That's when a lot of these coaches have to give their final injury reports out, and you'll know within that hour whether or not you can start him for your fantasy lineups. If not, obviously you're going to want to go with Chase Edmonds, who handled 28 of the team's 30 backfield touches without Kenyon Drake involved last week. So keep your eye on that situation. It's down to the wire.
Atlanta Falcons.
Atlanta, nothing's really going on there. This is a good time to bring up. Not really going to be going too much in the defensive side of things. Really just going to talk about some of the main fantasy players you got on the offenses that are going to matter when you're doing your matchups this weekend. I know some of you play in defensive leagues. That's okay. Not going to worry about that for now. We'll probably get into that more in later episodes as we go. But if you're into that kind of thing, Atlanta does have a couple of defensive backs out, and we've seen them just fail time and time again on defense. So it really doesn't matter. I don't think anybody that is playing in defensive leagues is going to be using Atlanta anyway.
Baltimore Ravens.
Baltimore, Mark Ingram, questionable for Week 10 against the Patriots, but he is expected to play after practicing in full for the first time since he suffered that high ankle sprain. J.K. Dobbins is going to be your guy behind him. He's the guy I would take over Gus Edwards. May see Gus Edwards get a goal line TD, but with the carousel you're going to see between Ingram, Dobbins, and Edwards on top of all the carries Lamar Jackson gets on that team, you're probably going to want to go with J.K. Dobbins out of the three. More of like a flex position. If you have to start anyone as one of your 2 or 3 running backs, depending on the league you're in, start J.K. Dobbins.
Buffalo Bills.
Buffalo, one of those teams that it's more hurt on the defensive side of the ball. If you do have Buffalo as a defense, they've been pretty disappointing this year, but they are banged up, especially without a guy like Micah Hyde on their team right now who's questionable with an ankle injury. They might have a tough matchup this week. Might want to stay away from them.
Carolina Panthers.
Carolina Panthers, obviously the big name out here is Christian McCaffrey. With Reggie Bonifant on IR already for his ankle injury, you're looking at Mike Davis to lead that backfield once again. You can safely start Mike Davis in your fantasy rosters. Behind him is Trenton Cannon, Rodney Smith. They're probably not going to get anything more than just a change of pace touch to give Mike Davis a rest. So go ahead and put Mike Davis in there. Christian McCaffrey will be out for this week and is hopeful to return next week.
Chicago Bears.
Some pretty big news here. David Montgomery, who exited the fourth quarter last week with a head injury, he is not going to play this Week 10 against the Vikings because of his concussion. So David Montgomery is ruled out. That's the first time he's missed a game. I think since he's been a rookie, it's like 25 straight games. He's out. So what's going to be going on here is there's a pretty good chance Lamar Miller is going to get promoted from the practice squad, I'd guess. You guys remember him from the Texans. Brief stay with the Patriots beginning of this year. He might actually take over. If you need someone in a deep league, it's time to snag Lamar Miller. Wide receiver, Allen Robinson. He's questionable for Week 10 against the Vikings. But the good news is he's been limited in practice, but then starting to practice more throughout the week yesterday, and he's going to be expected to play. So Allen Robinson, you still should check back at 12, but if you got him already set in your lineups, there's a good chance he's going to be playing.
Cincinnati Bengals.
Cincinnati Bengals, John Ross hasn't played much this year anyway. He's been placed on injured reserve, so Alden Tate, AJ Green are going to pick up the slack there. I still think if you got Tyler Boyd and T. Higgins, you're playing those guys, but it's just worth noting. Joe Mixon, he's not going to be playing this week. It was doubtful all week. Really wasn't doing anything in practice. Was really having rehabilitative appointments for most of the week. So while he's listed as doubtful, he's not going to be playing today. Look for Giovanni Bernard to stash into your lineup and place him. If you've got Joe Mixon, you probably have Giovanni Bernard. If not, you should be trading for him. He's a great insurance pick, just like Mike Davis or Alexander Madison behind Dalvin Cook.
Cleveland Browns.
Cleveland Browns, obviously Odell Beckham Jr. out for the season, torn left ACL. Nick Chubb, however, activated off injured reserve. He is going to be playing today. You could stick him back into your lineups. Obviously, he's a must start every week. Kareem Hunt is going to be taking some of the touches in the passing game, but Nick Chubb's going to be one of your bell cow workhorse running backs. He's back this week.
Dallas Cowboys.
Everyone's good to go on Dallas. Obviously, Dak Prescott, Blake Jarwin out for the year. Those are really going to be your only notables. Randy Gregory suspended again, but no one's playing that defense anyway. So you could sit tight with all your other guys. Michael Gallup, Amari Cooper, Zeke, you're good to go.
Denver Broncos.
Jerry Jeudy was questionable for Week 10 against the Raiders. But Fangio was saying that he was expecting him to play. Jeudy is going to play today. I would probably put him in there against a failing Las Vegas Raiders defense. This may be one of those games we finally see him break out.
Detroit Lions.
Lions receiver core is kind of hurt. TJ Hawkinson didn't practice this last Wednesday. He did return on Friday, so he's healing up yesterday and is supposed to be in the lineup today. Now, of course, the big question is Kenny Galladay. He did not participate in practice before the weekend. He's been ruled out for this game. You can take him out of your lineups, and if you got access to Marvin Jones Jr. and you're desperate for a wide receiver and he's your best option, that's probably going to be the big target on that team.
Green Bay Packers.
For the Packers, Robert Tonyan had been questionable for the Week 10 match against the Jaguars. He had suffered an ankle injury in practice on Thursday, wasn't able to participate at all on Friday. Saturday was a healing day for him. Everything points to him not playing today at all, but maybe if you really need him, you got to check back 12 p.m. or so when those last injury reports are getting updated to make sure if he's going to be your guy or not. Allen Lazard was pretty hot at the beginning of this season. Got some bad news there. He's going to stay on injured reserve past this Week 10 deadline. So Allen Lazard is going to be ruled out against the Jaguars.
Houston Texans.
David Johnson placed on injured reserve yesterday. He's going to be out for a minimum of 3 weeks. Dealing with his concussion protocol, you're going to see Duke Johnson taking over the backfield for the Houston Texans in Week 10.
Jacksonville Jaguars.
Laviska Shenault is ruled out for this week's matchup against the Packers. So you're going to turn to DJ Chark as big target again. Then Keelan Cole's going to get some more targets. Chris Conley's going to get some more targets. However, Gardner Minshew is also going to miss this game again, either with his thumb or just the fact that maybe the Jaguars don't want to play him. But Jake Luton's going to be taking over here. Had a pretty good game with Chark last time. Couple of touchdowns. Maybe he gives this offense the kickstart they need in the passing game so that they can couple that with James Robinson's power and turn it into a big couple of plays for your wide receivers that are left on the field.
Los Angeles Chargers.
All right, well, Kansas City's good, so we're just going to move on to the Los Angeles Chargers here. Justin Jackson is going to be out with his knee issue, placed on injured reserve. He joins Austin Eckler. They've got a lot of guys injured on defense. In the Chargers backfield, who you're going to be looking at is Joshua Kelly, and Troymaine Pope is actually questionable, so this is a good chance for Joshua Kelly to actually get his touches in. But I would check back on Troymaine Pope. If you've got a deep league, flex league, check again at like around 12 And he's actually out of Jacksonville State, real small guy. Not sure if he's going to make too much of a splash. They've tried to pepper him in. So you're really going to be looking at rookie Joshua Kelly as your main back in the Chargers game. But with Herbert there, they're probably going to be passing more than they're running anyway.
Miami Dolphins.
Okay, the Rams and the Raiders are looking pretty good. Miami Dolphins, Matt Breida, questionable with the hamstring, but he was a limited participant in practice this week. Should see him today, especially with the issues Jordan Howard has getting any yards or big plays broken out when he does get the ball. But DeAndre Washington, Patrick Laird are going to be in there. Pretty decent run catchers. You also might see this rookie Salvon Ahmed involved, but Breida could take a lot of these carries. I'd still kind of sit him in the RB3 flex position if you do start him, though.
Minnesota Vikings.
Only thing of note with Minnesota is that tight end Irv Smith Jr. is going to be out with a groin injury. He's ruled out. So if you have Kyle Rudolph or access to Kyle Rudolph as a tight end or in your deeper leagues, he could be a better play just because Irv Smith Jr. won't be taking any of those targets or snaps. However, with Kirk Cousins' inability to get the football spread around very effectively and Dalvin Cook's success at the running game, don't expect a whole lot from Kyle Rudolph in the first place.
New England Patriots.
So nothing real big going on in the New Orleans Saints, so let's move on to New England. This is a real tricky situation. There's a lot of guys that are questionable on the team, and this is kind of how Belichick likes to do it. He doesn't like to give a standard answer, one or the other. This is going to be one of those check back and see teams today. Check back as late as you can before the 1 o'clock games if you need any of these guys, but I'm going to be honest, I don't think a lot of them are very good plays. Damian Harris taking that huge hit in the last game. He looked like he was dead, and I don't know if we're really going to be seeing him rushed back because Sony Michel could be coming back from the IR, and on top of that, Rex Burkhead is healthy to go. So it's going to be a carousel of running backs there anyway. N'Keal Harry and Damian Harris were limited in practice, so they have a good chance to play. But again, even if they do today, it doesn't really matter because you're going to see this offensive problem we've seen in New England. Damiere Byrd, Jacoby Myers might get more catches than N'Keal Harry in the first place because that's where they were trending before all this happened. Damian Harris, they might kind of give him more rest just because they can bring Sony Michel back, see what he can do, and then Rex Burkhead is one of those trusted veterans. They might give him some goal line catches, a couple change of pace plays. They might swing it out to Rex Burkhead on a pass. I think you just stay away from this team altogether, regardless of the injuries.
New York Giants.
Devontae Freeman did not practice on Friday, and he's being put on IR. So you can go ahead and bet on Wade Gallman being the guy who gets the most carries in the backfield here. Dion Lewis is going to be probably more of the part of the passing game. Ex-Dallas Cowboy Alfred Morris was actually seeing some playing time last game. Maybe we see him peppered in more, but these guys aren't really anybody you're going to want to play for fantasy purposes. Wayne Gallman's going to be the stronger play. If you're desperate, if you're in a league where you have Saquon Barkley and need someone to replace him with, and no one has handcuffed Wayne Gallman from you, go ahead and put Wayne Gallman in. He has a touchdown in every game of the last 3 weeks. There's some upside there. Golden Tate, he's going to be questionable with a knee injury, so we'll just have to look and see what happens with him. Check back, see if he's on the injury report right before the 1 o'clock games.
New York Jets.
Just like the Chiefs, New York Jets on a bye. Don't have to worry about them. But it is worth noting with what happened to Sam Darnold. He has seen multiple doctors. None of them have recommended surgery for his shoulder, so he's probably not going to have any season-ending surgery or anything that's going to keep him out of a number of weeks. However, that means they're probably going to be pretty careful with him rehabbing that injury. If you got Sam Darnold, look to him to be kind of a slow returner, but he does have the bye week to heal.
Philadelphia Eagles.
Philadelphia Eagles. Miles Sanders had a knee issue. Alshon Jeffrey with that calf issue all year pretty much. They've been off the injury report. They are going to play today against the Giants. Sanders is going to be very close to full health. Could be a good addition to your fantasy lineups. We've seen him get plenty of volume Obviously, biggest game of the year was Week 5 at Pittsburgh, one of the best defenses in the league. So if you got Miles Sanders playing, Alshon Jeffrey, I'm not so sure with the way Carson Wentz has been playing.
Seattle Seahawks.
Nothing too big going on. Pittsburgh, Anthony McFarland Jr. dealing with illness, not COVID. So we'll move on to the Seattle Seahawks. This is a big issue in the backfield right now. It looks like Chris Carson is not going to be playing because of the foot injury. Carlos Hyde not going to be playing because of the hamstring injury. I mean, we're really getting down to the wire here, and what it's all going to amount to is whether or not Travis Homer is available to play and starts for them over DJ Dallas. It looks like even though Travis Homer was dealing with an injury, he's good to go today. DJ Dallas, if you have him, I actually kind of like him over Travis Homer. You might see Alex Collins, ex-Baltimore Raven, peppered into the backfield there. So, again, it's like the Ravens. If it comes down to all those three guys, I like DJ Dallas as the PPR play.
San Francisco 49ers.
San Francisco, another injury-decimated team. Jeff Wilson out with the ankle injury. Raheem Mostert, he's still on IR with the ankle injury. I guess you're really looking at the running backs here. Tevin Coleman, he's going to be out with a knee injury. So Jerick McKinnon, that's going to be your guy. JaMychal Hasty, that's going to be your. Those are going to be your guys. I'm pretty sure they're saying Jerick McKinnon's going to get most of the catches and touches here, but we see how that goes. It seems like Shanahan is just switching from one to the other week to week, and there's no way to predict this, but it does help bring some clarity when that many running backs are out. Deebo Samuel is also out for the hamstring injury today, so look to Brandon Ayuk coming back off of that close contact COVID quote-unquote injury. He might make a splash again. And then, of course, George Kittle on IR with the foot. So we've got Ross Dwelly in there at tight end instead. A lot of injuries going on the San Francisco side of things. Do your best, use your best judgment. But again, kind of like the Patriots, I don't really know if I'd be going towards these running backs, but unlike the Patriots, I think you could gravitate towards some of the wide receivers. I mean, look to Brandon Ayuk as a really hot rookie to bring you some points on your fantasy team.
Washington football team.
Okay, Tampa Bay, not much going on there as far as injuries. Tennessee already played, so we're moving on to the last team, Washington football team. Only thing I would say here is it's not really a big deal. Dustin Hopkins is questionable as a kicker to play against the Lions. He's got a groin injury right now. Check back if you've got him as a kicker, but I'm sure you could switch him out real quick. Dontrell Inman, he's going to be ruled out with his hamstring injury. Kyle Allen, obviously we saw him take that nasty hit to his leg and his ankle. Alex Smith, emotionally disturbed by that whole situation. He's going to be the one taking over, and I'm sure he's going to be nursing himself and a little reluctant to do anything crazy anyway. As usual, you start your guys like Terry McLaurin on that team, and maybe J.D. McKissic has a big game for you in the passing game because of Alex Smith being a little cautious and dumping it off.
Thanks for listening.
Okay, guys, that's it for the Week 10 injury report. I hope this was helpful to you. Once again, my name is Ryan. I'm going to be back with Rob later today to do an analysis and update of all the stats happening around the league and just have some fun conversing about football. Guys, join me if you want. I'll see you next time. This is Fantasy R&R.
That's what fantasy with Rob and Ryan. Fantasy